Bhagavad Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapa Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaja Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Vishnakarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, welcome. So today we'll continue our reading from which chapter? 11. What is the title of the 11th chapter?
Universal form.
The Universal Form. Right? So, Arjuna has said in the opening verse of this chapter that by my hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about these most confidential spiritual subjects, my illusion has now been dispelled. So Arjuna's illusion is now dispelled by hearing from Krishna. And this is the only means to dispel our illusion. And we know in the world around us there is so much confusion, lack of clarity, concern, fear, worry, anxiety. And Arjuna is guiding us here that the only means to become free from that is hearing from Krishna. And reading this Bhagavad Gita is a direct hearing from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because He is directly speaking to all of us through Arjuna. So we are very fortunate to have the opportunity to hear. And this Bhagavad Gita, it contains 700 verses. And the goal of everything Krishna says in this Bhagavad Gita is to bring peace and happiness to all living entities. That is the purpose of speaking. So whenever somebody speaks, there's always a purpose or an intent. So when Krishna has spoken this Bhagavad Gita, He has spoken it for the purpose of bringing peace and happiness to Arjuna, but more importantly, to all of us by studying these instructions. So every instruction Krishna gives here is very, very powerful. But it has power if we apply it. If I have, some powerful medicines in my hand that can cure my illness, that medicine only has value if I do what? If I take it. If I throw it in the trash, that medicine has no value. Right? So the application is what delivers value. And this Bhagavad Gita has so many principles and statements of how to find perfection of life. But is the application so easy? So actually, that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself manifested. Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, and he was lamenting that I've spoken how to find perfection of life. I've spoken it very clearly through this Bhagavad Gita. I've given step-by-step instructions. But he was lamenting that I have not shown how to do it. I have not shown the process of how to do it. And thus, after he performs his Krishna Lila pastimes on this planet, shortly thereafter, some 4,500 years later, Krishna again descends as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is Krishna himself who is appearing to show the practice of devotional service. In essence, what he is showing is how to live the principles enjoined within the Bhagavad Gita. How to actually bring them into our day-to-day life. Because again, unless we know to take the medicine, it has no value. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by his unlimited mercy, has bestowed upon us the greatest fortune to have understanding how to apply the principles of the Bhagavad Gita. And what is the number one way or process that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained to all of us? What is the means of perfection? By chanting of the holy names. He would constantly quote this verse from the Brihan Naradiya Purana. Harinam, 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 Evalam, Kalo, Nashteva, 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 Katir, Nata. Says, in this age of Kali, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way for deliverance. Then, chanting of the holy names, chanting of the holy names, chanting of the holy names. 3 times emphasis. No other way, no other way, no other way. Nashta eva, nashta eva, nashta eva. Yeah? Chanting of the holy name. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama. So this emphasis here. This was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. And he is considered Mahavadanaya, most merciful, because he bestowed that teaching upon everybody. He did not, keep it secluded to certain people. There was no qualification he was looking for. Actually, he was looking for the most unqualified. And by this simple yet highly effective process, was able to uplift to the most wonderful of positions. And this was the great mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he taught us that this Krishna Bhakti, this love of Krishna, is the ultimate achievement one can obtain. There is no greater achievement in the whole of creation, material and spiritual, that one can obtain than love of Krishna. And he showed in his own exhibition of so many pastimes this, and in his teachings. So this love of Krishna is the greatest gift, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given it to us. So it brings us to an interesting point here in this chapter, entitled The Universal Form. Because here Arjuna, while in the midst of discussing with Krishna, what does he request? See the universal form. Now, because he is asking Krishna to bestow, we know this universal form is related, but it's separate. It's a second existence of Krishna. Meaning Krishna was already there, and he said, I'd like to see your universal form. And now, I promised last time I would ask this question. Some of you who took notes will remember that I said I was going to ask this question again. The 3 C's. So there are 3 reasons why Arjuna asked Krishna to see the universal form. So we'll do one by one. Don't yell them all out. What's the first reason? Yes?
Conviction, to convince others that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yes. So first is conviction. And how did demonstrating the universal form establish conviction that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead?
Because no one else could do that.
Can you see to believe it?
Arjuna has said in the beginning of this chapter that I have all my illusions have been dispelled. Right? So, in the last chapter, in the 10th chapter, Krishna said, I am manifesting everything, right? All my opulences are present everywhere. So, to establish the same conviction that Arjuna has, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So that is one reason. What is the second reason? Or us, number 2.
Is it one more?
Nobody else?
Anybody?
Yes.
Convince?
That's conviction. Yes.
Criteria?
Criterion. What does that mean?
I don't know.
to set a criteria by which other imposters, by which the people can judge other imposters to see if they're God or not.
So what do we find in today's day and age? Many people claiming to be right? We have so many people bogusly claiming to be God. So Arjuna is setting out a criteria. Okay, if you are God, manifest your universal form. Then we'll accept. No problem. Until then, don't speak. Just speak to yourself. Don't fool and bewilder others. So to create a criteria by which one can establish the Supreme Lord. So to protect all of us from imposters, as Srila Prabhupada says. Those falsely claiming and leading one down the wrong path. There's 2. And what is the third reason?
Commitment?
No.
Curiosity?
Curiosity. And what was Arjuna's curiosity?
I don't know.
That I don't know whether to kill my relatives, fight against them or not. And then he wanted Krishna to guide him.
That was more his indecision. In the first chapter, he presents.
He's curious about how the universal form would be.
Close, yeah, he's curious about how the universal form would be.
Curious which form to follow, whether universal form.
No, not curious about that. So at the end of the 10th chapter, Krishna made a statement. He said, by just a spark of my splendor, I pervade this entire universe. So that's a hard thing to understand, right? Like how just a spark of Krishna's opulences can pervade the entire universe. So Arjuna was curious to see how is that so. So by seeing the universal form, he could understand this process. So to establish conviction in the heart of all of us, the same conviction that Arjuna had, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the first reason, or one of the 3 reasons why Arjuna asked to see the universal form. 2, to satisfy or to establish the criteria by which one can claim to be God. And 3, to satisfy his curiosity around how he pervades the entire universe. Because we know one fact, whether we acknowledge it or not, our entire existence is dependent on the mercy of Krishna. And our false ego, our ego is what leads us in deniance of this. I know I have my own abilities, my own opportunities. But if we really think about it, every single breath we take, we're dependent on someone else to provision that air. Every grain of rice we eat, who is providing the soils? Who is providing the rains? The air. Air is needed to grow also. The light, sunlight. So our whole existence, if we don't even acknowledge Krishna, we can at least acknowledge one thing. It is not our own doing. We are dependent on something else. We have some. If the sun were not to rise tomorrow, what would happen to our existence? Forget about that. If we just moved a few feet closer to the sun and this planet, what would happen to our existence? At least we'd get rid of all of our jackets. Because more than likely, we would not even survive. So we at least know our existence is dependent on some supreme authority. And Arjuna is telling us who that supreme authority is. So this universal form is very interesting. Now, is it easy to see this universal form? No. So let's read the 8th verse. And we're going to tie it back, because the purport here is very, very nice. So someone can read the verse and we'll read the purport.
I'll read the translation.
Yeah, no problem. 8.
8, yes. But you cannot see me with your present eyes. Therefore I give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence.
A pure devotee does not like to see Krishna in any form except his form with 2 hands. A devotee must see his universal form by his grace, not with the mind but with spiritual eyes. See the universal form of Krishna. Arjuna is told not to change his mind but his vision. The universal form of Krishna is not very important. That will be clear in subsequent verses. Yet, because Arjuna wanted to see it, the Lord gives him the particular vision required to see that universal form.
Devotees who are correctly situated in a transcendental relationship with Krishna are attracted by loving features, not by a godless display of opulences. The playmates of Krishna, the friends of Krishna, and the parents of Krishna never want Krishna to show his opulences. They are so immersed in pure love that they do not even know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In their loving exchange, they forget that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the boys who play with Krishna are all highly pious souls, and after many, many births, they are able to play with Krishna. Such boys do not know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They take him as a personal friend. Therefore, Sukdev Goswami recites this particular verse. Let's skip the verse.
Yeah.
Here is the Supreme Person who is considered the impersonal Brahman by great sages, the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotees, and a product of material nature by ordinary men. Now these boys who have performed many, many pious activities in their past lives are playing with that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 12, 11.
The fact is that the devotee is not concerned with seeing the Vishvarupa, the universal form, but Arjuna wanted to see it to sustain Krishna's statement so that in the future people could understand that Krishna not only theoretically or philosophically present himself as a supreme, but actually present himself as such to Arjuna. Arjuna must confirm this because Arjuna is the beginning of the Parambara system. Those who are actually interested in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and who follow in the footsteps of Arjuna should understand that Krishna not only theoretically presented himself as the Supreme, but actually revealed himself as the Supreme. The Lord gave Arjuna the necessary power to see him, to see his universal form, because he knew that Arjuna did not particularly want to see it, as we have already explained.
So again, Krishna says, but you cannot see me with your present eyes. Therefore I give you the divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence. So how can one see the universal form?
Only when Krishna permits.
Only with Krishna's, with the mercy of Krishna, one can see. Right? So, Prabhupada says here, the Lord gave Arjuna the necessary power. Now, Prabhupada is focusing this purport on what topic? It's interesting, right? What is Prabhupada focusing the purport on?
That people who are actually living exchanges or very close to Krishna
Do not even
do
want
not
to see him.
care or do not know that he is the Supreme Personality. They
Yeah. So he's speaking about actually the extraordinary feature of Krishna without opulences,
yes.
or at least these sort of grand opulences. Right? So why do we think Srila Prabhupada is writing the purport in this way? Immediately in this verse, where Krishna says, I'm giving you eyes to see it, what is Prabhupada trying to guide us towards?
Purity.
That thought for a second. I'm just going to read a couple of the verses coming up. We'll come back to this point, right? So, Krishna displayed his universal form. And in 10:11, Arjuna saw in that universal form unlimited mouths, unlimited eyes, unlimited wonderful visions. The form was decorated with many celestial ornaments and bore many divine upraised weapons. He wore celestial garlands and garments. Many divine scents were smeared over his body. All was wondrous, brilliant, unlimited, and all expanding. And then Sanjaya is trying to compare what he's seeing to Dhritarashtra. Now, how would you describe the universal form? Right? It's so difficult. So here how Sanjaya is describing. He says in the 12th verse, if hundreds of thousands of suns were to rise at once in the sky, their radiance might resemble the effulgence of the Supreme Person in that universal form. So you can see, very bright, shiny, right? Very luminous. And compared to hundreds of thousands of suns. On a sunny day, we cannot even look at one sun. So we can kind of get a frame of reference to how grand this was. At that time, Arjuna could see in the universal form of the Lord unlimited expansions of the universe situated in one place, although divided into many, many thousands. Then, bewildered and astonished, his hair standing on end, Arjuna bowed his head to offer obeisances with folded hands and began to pray to the Supreme Lord. So this is a very Acharya's comment here now, that the mood of Arjuna has changed. And what do we see this mood of Arjuna in this last verse we just read? Awe and reverence. Right? He's bowing. He is actually a little bit astonished, he says. Right? I am astonished, hair standing on end. Right? So he is in amazement. And as Arjuna continues in this chapter, we're going to see that mood change to fear, actually. He's going to become very fearful of what he is seeing. Okay? So let's take it back now to this 8th verse. Yeah.
So, only Arjuna could see his universal form, right? So, how is Sanjaya is granted?
So later in the Bhagavad Gita it says that certain other people could see, including some of the demigods who were in the higher heavenly planets also were able to see. But those on the battlefield, only Arjuna could see. So Sanjaya, by the grace of the Vyasa, was also able to understand what was happening. So there were a few people who were able to see this first time manifested form. That is all. So we see this grandeur, right? Thousands of helmets and garlands and crowns. But in that type of form, what is missing?
Love.
So a relationship is complete when there is love. And I often give the example of a child with his father. You know, the relationship of child and father, there is some aspect of fear, right? That is the impetus to follow, to behave. But if the whole relationship was captured with fear, would we consider that a healthy or complete relationship? No. From fear, there is a relationship of the child and father of awe, of being, amazed at the greatness of Father, right? That's an aspect of that relationship. But if the child is in awe of Father, would we consider that relationship to be complete? Not necessarily. Because there wouldn't be such intimate connections. It would be more, again, of honor. So that relationship with Father is complete when there is love. Then it is complete. Then it is full. Those other aspects are aspects of a relationship, but we would not call them complete. Right? So it's the same thing with us in Krishna. Yes, you can have some aspect of being fearful. There's this term, God-fearing Christians. Right? We say we're God-fearing. We are fearful of the punishment with the inspiration then to do good. So there's an aspect of a relationship. There might be awe and reverence. But ultimately that relationship with the Supreme Lord is fulfilled, complete, when there is love. Now, you cannot have love when there is great opulence. And Prabhupada would give the very vivid example of what is the difference between Vishnu and Krishna. So he would give the example of they are the same person, but in different moods. Vishnu is like is Krishna in the office. And he would give the example of the Supreme Court judge, like a high judge. In the courtroom, there is a very formal relationship between the people in the courtroom and the judge. Right? There's an etiquette to speak. He sits on a high bench, certain clothing, Your Honor, this is spoken. But is there love in the courtroom? No, there is respect. Great respect. Maybe adoration. We wouldn't consider it love. But when that same judge takes his robe off at the end of the day and goes home to his family. Now, what is the relationship with that judge and his family? They don't call him Your Honor. Right? There is love. There is a more intimate relationship. So like that, which is the deeper, more complete relationship? Those with the judge in the courtroom or those with that same judge at home? Obvious, right? So Prabhupada is guiding us in this verse that this universal form is very grand and opulent. And sometimes we think bigger must mean greater. This must be a supreme aspect. But no, as we'll see later in this chapter. Right? So the ultimate relationship. So Prabhupada is sort of saying this universal form, it's not so important for us. What's important is understanding our loving relationship with Krishna. Because that is the ultimate, complete relationship. You cannot love the universal form. You can be in awe of it and inspired, just shocked by it, as we see Arjuna's mood. Because initially his mood with Krishna is of what? What is the relationship between Krishna and Arjuna? Friends. How many of you have folded your hands and bowed to your friends? Doesn't happen. So you can see the rasa between Krishna and Arjuna is changing by the presence of this universal form. Right? He has gone from a very friendly, what we say, conventional or casual relationship to one of now awe and reverence. So his mood has changed. And so this brings to an important point. That the eyes that Krishna gave to Arjuna, our Acharya's comment, was not that Arjuna was unqualified to see the universal form. Actually, his qualification was beyond. But actually, he had to be given eyes to see this lower form. It was not an advancement of Arjuna's devotion that allowed him to see the universal form. So sometimes we can, make that wrong because our acharyas comment very clearly on this. So Prabhupada is establishing in this purport with these eyes, saying, actually the pure devotee is focused on the personality of Krishna. That is the ultimate source of one's love and affection. So we'll study this universal form. We'll see some more in the coming weeks, but we should understand it in context. The context being our ultimate relationship is with Krishna himself. And in that relationship, Prabhupada is commenting, and Shukadeva Goswami in Bhagavatam is commenting, that even they forget that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Just like the child, when the judge comes home, doesn't say, Your Honor. He says, get on the ground, I'm going to climb on your back and let's play. Right? Doesn't remember, because out of love. And the father enjoys that more than being honored in that courtroom. So what pleases Krishna the most is this very personal relationship with him. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give this type of bhakti to all of us. It says that you can enjoy with Krishna in Vrindavan. That is Krishna at home. Even in the Vaikuntha planets, that is like Vishnu at the office. It's nice, beautiful, beyond compare. But going even further, that is Krishna at home. And that is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give us. So, today is the disappearance day of Madhavendra Puri. So how many of you know Madhavendra Puri's story in his pastimes? Not so much. Shall we discuss for a few minutes? It's a very powerful pastime. And this pastime is explained to us in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the town of Ramuna. And there's a temple there, a Gopinath temple there. And he is sitting with his associates. And one very famous aspect of this temple is that there is an extraordinary preparation of sheer that is made there. It is unlike anything in the world. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was waiting to honor some of this sheer. And so, in waiting, he began to relay a story. And this story was told to him by his guru, Ishvara Puri. And Ishvara Puri is telling this story about his guru, Madhavendra Puri. Okay? So understand? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is seated in Ramuna, and he's telling this pastime about his guru's guru. Okay? So Madhavendra Puri was an extraordinary devotee. And he was performing many, many wonderful pastimes. And he came to Govardhan. And in Govardhan, there is the very famous place of Govind Kund. After Krishna lifted Giraj and performed that pastime, we know Lord Indra came to offer his prayers and beg for forgiveness for showering the rains and trying to threaten the residents. And there he brought Airavata, his elephant, and Surabhi, the cow, and performed Abhishek of Krishna. So the Abhishek waters were so voluminous it collected into a lake. And that lake is still there today, and that is Govind Kund. It was considered an extraordinary, potent, and powerful place to practice spiritual life. So there, Madhavendra Puri was seated under one tree and was chanting his japa. And one young, beautiful boy came and said, "My dear man, why you are fasting? Please take this milk." Madhavendra Puri said, "How do you know I was fasting?" He says, "This is my village. And in my village, nobody goes hungry. So I know. And before Madhavendra Puri could kind of recollect, the boy disappeared. So Madhavendra Puri drank this milk. And this milk was like nothing he had ever tasted. So nectarian. His whole inside began to just overflow with love. He was shocked. He says, who is this boy? He finished the milk and left it there. Actually, his devotion was so strong, he would not even beg any madhukari. Whatever came to him, he would take. So this boy dropped this milk. After some hours, Madhavendra Puri fell sleepy, and he fell asleep. And in his dream, this same boy came. And he said, well, how you've come again? And he said, I am Krishna. I am Gopal. I am the king of Raj. And I am the one who lifted Govardhan, and he began to say all these pastimes. And I came in to give milk. But he said, but hold my hand and follow me. And in his dream, this boy, who is none other than Krishna, took him to one area in the jungle, and there was a bush. And he said, I am buried under this bush. I've been buried here for many, many years. Please get me out. I am hot. I am cold. I am hungry. I am covered in dust. Please get me out. And immediately, Madhavendra Puri woke up. And he thought, what is this dream? But he took note, and he grabbed some villagers, and they went to this place. And there, they began to dig under this bush, and they found this very beautiful deity. This deity was actually established by Brajanath, the great-grandson of Krishna, who established certain deities after the finishing of Krishna Lila. But after, we know Vrindavan particularly was attacked by the Mughals, and so many of the deities were hidden. So this deity was hidden in the ground for so long. So the villagers were, digging and digging, and very heavy, beautiful deity, covered in dirt from the ground. So they lifted the deity out, and in the dream, Krishna told Madhavendra Puri, you establish a temple on the hill, and you begin to bathe me, to cool me down. There's so much heat I've acquired. So, like that, Madhavendra Puri took that instruction, and he established this deity on top of the hill. They built a temple, and they began to offer abhishek. So hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pots were brought from Govind Kund. The same water that had been, previously done abhishek. Now they were washing the deity of this Gopal, and they were washing and bringing so many different ingredients for worshipping and doing abhishek. This Maha Abhishek was performed with different things like cow urine and ghee and oils and water. So many things to bring the deity back to a nice temperature and also restore his luster. So after a bath, we know I get hungry. So then Madhavendra Puri arranged huge amounts of offerings to come. And a big, they call it anukut, was made. Mountains of rice and sabjis and sweet rice and rasgullas and pakoras and maybe even pizzas. Who knows? But like this, huge offerings were made. And the villagers, all the local residents of Vrindavan were just amazed how this deity had appeared. Madhavendra Puri must be some very exalted personality. And so all the villagers, one village at a time, would come and beg Madhavendra Puri, today, can we offer the anakut to Krishna? And like this, day by day, each village would come. And the residents, they would just empty their storehouses. Whatever they had, all their supplies, they would come and make beautiful, wonderful offerings for Krishna. And you can see, this is the mood of devotion. When Krishna says, Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vrajaham tam sarva papebhyo moksham smahisya. He says, you surrender everything to me. But when we we surrender everything to Krishna, these residents of Vrindavan knew that when you give everything to Krishna, you actually gain everything in return. Because Krishna surrenders himself to his devotees. So whatever we can give to Krishna, how does that compare to what Krishna can give back? Who wins in that transaction? Just like child. When child does something with great love to mother and father reciprocate back many, many times fold. So the residents of Vrindavan, they knew, just give, Krishna will provide. They had no fear. Right? When we give, we sometimes wonder, oh, what will happen to us? So the residents were begging and begging, let us do, let us do, let us do. So like this, day after day, there was Abhishek and this huge Anakut. And slowly, this deity began very, very famous and popular. And a beautiful temple was built. Some wealthy people came and built a nice, beautiful temple. Madhavendra Puri was training up so many disciples and how to practice and how to worship the deities. And things were going very nicely. Then, Krishna came into Madhavendra Puri's dream again for the second time. Madhavendra Puri, my body is still burning hot. My fever has not gone down. I need a special chandan. You please go to Orissa, to Jagannath Puri. There they have a very special chandan. You bring that and you apply it to my body. Only then my fever will go down. Madhavendra Puri woke up. Oh, Krishna's fever is now. So much Abhishek water has been given, so many things, but nothing is cooling Krishna. So Madhavendra Puri instructed two of his disciples how to worship the deities, and he immediately left. Now you can imagine this instruction coming to us. We have this beautiful deity, wonderful anukuts are going on, service is going so grand. We would become attached to it. That this is mine now. But the mood of a devotee is not. The mood of a devotee is attached to the instruction of Krishna. When facilities come, the devotee does not become attached to those facilities. He becomes attached to the instruction of Krishna. It's non-different. So, as soon as that instruction, Madhavendra Puri enthusiastically said, I will go. He could have sent an army. He had so many followers by this time. He could have sent a whole army to Jagannath Puri to bring back the Chandan. And they would have all gleefully gone. But he went himself. And how far it is from Vrindavan to Jagannath Puri? We're not getting on the plane or the bus or train. This is walking through dense jungles, unpaved roads, going. And so, Madhavendra Puri begins this journey. Gave everything up, detached, just attached to the instruction of Krishna. And he actually, on this journey, reaches Shantipur. And there he meets Advaita Acharya. And there Advaita Acharya and Madhavendra Puri engage in some wonderful dialogue. And Madhavendra Puri gives initiation to Advaita Acharya. And then from there he starts going south. And from here he reaches the town of Ramuna. Where did this story start? Ramuna. And who was in Ramuna? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in which temple he was in? Gopinath temple. Right? So Madhavendra Puri reaches Ramuna and he knows of this very beautiful temple of Gopinath. So he is sitting in the temple room and he is watching how they are worshipping Gopinath. And he is thinking, oh, I can serve my Gopalji this same way. And he is taking notes. How nicely. The devotee doesn't think, oh, I know it all. And think, oh, I do it better. He's thinking, how I can do better by learning from them. So, he had heard one of the Brahmanas speaking about the very unique offering here is this shear. That same shear that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was waiting to honor. So the pujari is they bring 12 pots every day. And they offer these 12 clay pots of shear every day. And as the pujari is bringing it, Madhavendra Puri smells this shear. Oh, wow. And he thought, I would like to taste this. But not taste it to satisfy his sense, but to think how I can make this shear for my Gopalaji. But at that time he thought, Krishna is not, the pujari was in his way to the offering. And he thought, I am the most fallen. I have desired to taste this before Krishna. Of course, his mood was not to taste for himself. Out of great humility, he considered himself to be a great offender. And so he left the temple. And he went to one abandoned marketplace. And was just chanting there and crying and lamenting at how big a mistake he made. And how much offense. You can see. When we make the biggest of mistakes, we think, what I did? I didn't do anything wrong. What you talking about? You must be misunderstanding. Now, actually, Madhavendra Puri made no mistake because his desire was pure. But we see the mood of the devotee. They think, oh no, I am not fit to see Gopinath. So he left. So it's getting into the middle of the night. The pujari had closed up the altar and went to take rest. And the pujari in the middle of the night is awoken by Gopinath. His dream. And he says, get up. I have held back one pot of this shear. You give it to Madhavendra Puri. And the pujari, no, I know. I personally put the offering and I took them back. Oh, he said, I have kept one pot. Wake me up. Go see. And you give this to Madhavendra Puri. He says, who is this Madhavendra Puri? I don't know. So he gets up, takes bath, opens the curtain, he looks around, and he said, it's behind my dress, my skirt. And he moved, and there was one pot of shear. Wow, who is this Madhavendra Puri? That Krishna himself has taken this shear for him. So he takes this pot. And he's going out, Madhavendra Puri, but nobody is coming out. He doesn't know who he is. So he finally reaches this abandoned marketplace. And he's saying, Madhavendra Puri, where are you? Who are you? And he says, who is asking? He says, Krishna is asking. He says, Krishna, Gopinath has sent me. He has given you this shear. And Madhavendra Puri was in ecstasy. How sweet the Lord is. He never fails in his reciprocation. And many of you have always had a similar experience where Krishna does the unthinkable. And so Madhavendra Puri was so overwhelmed and he began to eat the shear and was just completely transcendent. You can pick up the just put on. So he began to overwhelm. And he said that they said he took the clay pot and he broke it and he tied it in his chadar. And every day he would eat a small piece of that pot. So from that point, he immediately left Ramuna. And why he left Ramuna? Because he knew all the people of Ramuna would say, who is this Madhavendra Puri that Gopinath stole a pot of shear for him? Who is this great devotee? Let us go and offer him obeisances and glorify him. And Madhavendra Puri wanted none of that. Amanina manadena. Wanting no respect, but offering respect to everybody. So immediately Madhavendra Puri left. He did not even go back and offer obeisances to Gopinath. He did with his mind. Because he thought, better I leave here than receive the accolades of all these wonderful residents of Ramuna. Again, we continue to see the great quality and character of Madhavendra Puri. So he continued all the way to Jagannath Puri. By the time he reached Jagannath Puri, everybody had heard the fame of this pastime. First, of this Gopal deity being unearthed by Madhavendra Puri and how elaborately worshipped. Then this story of Gopinath came. So by the time he reached Puri, it was like a mob scene. Nobody knew who he was. As soon as he entered Jagannath Puri, everybody was clamoring for him. And that made Madhavendra Puri very uncomfortable. But he was willing to take that for the purpose of following the instruction, to serve his dear Krishna. So he arranged for the Chandan. Now Chandan 1 is very expensive and very heavy. So now he had to arrange to take this Chandan with great, and going there is unthinkable on foot. But now the return journey with all of this Chandan. So they loaded it on one cart. A couple of people came with him, and they began very arduously to take this Chandan. And they reversed course. I'm shortening the story just in the interest of time. And they reached back to Ramuna. And there, Madhavendra Puri, took darshan, and one night they stayed there. And in Ramuna, again, who came into his dream? Krishna. This Gopal Didi came into his dream. He says, Madhavendra Puri, I have sent you to get this Chandan. I am overwhelmed by your love for me. You abandoned everything and have endured so much difficulty. And now you are bringing this Chandan for me, to cool me. If you apply this Chandan to Gopinath, I will receive that Chandan here in Vrindavan and my body will be cool. Just apply this Chandan, all that you have acquired, to me here as Gopinath. And your service to me will be fulfilled. So Madhavendra Puri said, this was the instruction. He could say, no, I want to go back to my deity and just go over the beautiful temples established and, all kinds of art. Krishna wanted me here. I'll stay here. And so like that, they began a great festival of applying this Chandan to this Gopinath deity. And still to this day, they perform this pastime. And Madhavendra Puri finished out his whole pastimes there. His samadhi was there. He left his body just there in Ramuna. And every day they were applying this Chandan to this very beautiful deity of Gopinath. And as I mentioned, he left his body there in Ramuna. And so today is the disappearance day. And if you go to Ramuna still today, you can go, particularly if you go for Mangalarti darshan, such a beautiful darshan of this Gopinath. This Gopinath is actually, it's a carving. It's carved. There's a whole story of how this deity was carved, actually by Lord Ramchandra. But if you go during Mangala darshan, they have very basic shringar, and so you can see this beautiful carvings. And we had the great fortune many years ago. We were with Vaishnava Maharaj, and how Krishna arranges. We took an overnight train and we reached Ramuna in the morning. Had beautiful Mangalarti darshan, and we're just sitting on the platform and just relishing and getting ready to leave. And the pujari came and he brought 12 pots of this sheer. And we all got one, and there were exactly 12 of us. And we all got one pot of this sheer, and it is like nothing you'll ever have in your entire life. So this Madhavendra Puri pastime is very special to all of us in my family, just because we had this great fortune of seeing this. But we see in the story of Madhavendra Puri great devotional qualities. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was glorifying Madhavendra Puri in Ramuna to all of his associates. Because we have an opportunity to learn from these devotees the mood of devotional service, how to practice and to become inspired by the determination, the humility, the sincerity and enthusiasm, the intelligence, right? The utilization, so many different principles we can learn. So these pastimes are not just interesting stories, but they're important for how we can apply them into our day-to-day life. And that is the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how to take the teachings of this Bhagavad Gita and apply it into our life. So while we're studying this universal form, we'll remember this purport that Srila Prabhupada is guiding us to. The supreme object of our love is Lord Krishna. And we're very, very fortunate by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada that we have any even concept of this knowledge. And he established in our calendar the most important celebration of the year is this Gaur Purnima festival. So Gaur Purnima is on Monday, March 9th. It is the most important day of our year, the most auspicious, because by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can achieve everything. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says in Chaitanya Charitamrita that whatever is difficult becomes very easy by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But whatever is easy becomes very difficult if one does not get the mercy of Chaitanya. It's a double-edged. So on this day, on Monday, we can pray to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to make progress in our process of devotional service. We find obstacles, we have challenges, whether it's our chanting or our sincerity or our consistency or whatever it is, we know it in our heart. But if we pray to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and please help me, you are Mahavadanaya, most merciful. Srila Narottam Das Thakur says that you actually have to give me, because you are Patitana Pavana, you are the deliverer of the fallen. If that is in fact true, then you have to deliver me because I am the most fallen. So my claim is, first, he says, so like that, we can pray to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for his mercy so that we can progress in this process of devotional service. Because there's nothing else, as Krishna is telling Arjuna, that will truly give us freedom and this peace and happiness. So please participate in this festival. Some tips and observation. If to the extent you can observe a fasting for Gaur Purnima. Fasting until moonrise is a prescribed time. If your body cannot fast completely, that's okay. You can take fruits and milk and nuts and things like that. But you can abstain from grains. If you want to go a little bit higher level, you can abstain from grains and salt. Some will take just milk and water. Some will do nothing. But be practical. Main thing is not to torture the body. The main thing is to concentrate the mind and heart on the Supreme Lord. Okay? So let us enjoy and relish this. I think tomorrow evening we'll have a little bit more discussion on some pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his appearance thing, but it's getting a little bit late, so we'll finish here. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions or comments?
Shri Nitya Krishna Prabhu ki jai.
Any questions or discussion?
So, Madhavendra, the story you told, like 200 years, 100 years back maybe?
Madhavendra Puri? No, this was before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
How come the Mughal was there? That time Mughals were there?
There were different people who were back, after, before, there were different eras.
I see. So it's way before that you went there.
There might not even been the Mughal, there was some.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Madhavendra? I invite you to keep it simple.
Of who? Madhavendra Puri?
That is what I've heard. Thing that I know is he was very strong. His body was very strong, but by everything sort of I don't know
The most wonderful thing about Madhavendra Puri that we have is that he instituted in our Sampradaya, particularly the Madhavacharya Sampradaya, this concept of love of Krishna, particularly this conjugal relationship, this love between Srimati Radharani and Krishna. he added that rasa to this sampradaya. That was contributed by Madhavendra Puri. And so, and of course Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So it is quite appropriate that he is coming in, of course Krishna doesn't belong in disciplic succession, but in the mood of a devotee, he shows that. But that is one of the very important and critical contributions Madhavendra Puri made to us. If you go today, Stota Govardhan, I don't know anybody has been to his bhajan kutir. So if you go for Govardhan Parikrama, you go to Govind Kund, and then you search out Madhavendra Puri's bhajan kutir. And there you just sit a few minutes, chant a little bit, such a power. But that was the place he was seated when Krishna came and gave him that pot of milk. So there's a nice little kutir there. And you can really relish that place. So you can enjoy that. Any other questions or discussions? Okay, so we'll chant now.